r/AskReddit. What's a cool fact about the human body that a lot of people don't know? Your liver can regenerate, and much faster than you think. I had a quarter of my liver removed, and a month later it was back. You have enough potassium in your body to create a very small bomb. Some people are born with extra ribs called cervical ribs which grow from the C7 vertebrae in the neck. It's a weird and rare mutation that a lot of people don't even know they have, although it is also a cause of thoracic outlet syndrome, which is where pressure is applied to the nerves, veins and arteries running into the arms. It can be really painful, and in some rare cases can cause gangrene in the arms. If left untreated it can kill you if you're really unlucky. Source: I have the non-cervical rib-induced variety. Some people will cough if they put something in one ear, a very small percentage will cough if something is in either ear. It is called Arnold's ear cough reflex. A woman was found without a cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls motor abilities of the body. She is alive, and has no real side effects from this condition that we know of. Okay, to clarify, her cerebellum was not removed nor did I do it. She was born without one, and the medical professionals, again, not me, found out after she complained about a headache which led to an MRI. It is worth noting that the cerebellum doesn't control voluntary movement, that is the motor cortex. The cerebellum's main role is basically to try to match intention from the motor cortex to the action that is actually being performed by the muscles. Still interesting, though. You know the smell of rain, or disturbed soil. It's a compound produced by bacteria called geosmin, and the human nose is extremely sensitive to it. We can smell it at as low a concentration as 5 parts per trillion. We can smell rain better than sharks can smell blood. I actually just learned about this. There is a podcast from Stuff You Should Know that goes over all this info. The smell of rain. That episode of SYSK Short is cool. Also, they said that it could be that we have evolved to smell geosmin to enhance our ability to find water. Natural redheads require increased doses of anesthesia due to some connection with the mutated melanocortin-1 receptor. I'm a natural redhead myself, and developed a fear of dentists because I'd always feel what they were doing. Eventually I had an issue that couldn't be ignored, and had to find a new dentist. At my first visit he took one look at me, and said, "You're a real redhead, huh? Yup, hygienist, get me 4x the Novocaine." I knew I'd found my man, and he's been treating me ever since, also shed my fears, since dental work is much less unpleasant when you're actually numb before they start. Archaeologist here. You can give birth after you've died. Occasionally we will come across a really confronting burial where the skeleton of an unborn child is halfway through its mother's pelvis. Generally what happens is the woman has died before giving birth, and after burial a buildup of gases from decomposition forces the baby out. We refer to this as coffin birth. Really late, but I discovered this thing during my thesis. We were researching patients with neurological problems and people who had brain injuries, and we found a woman in her 30s that had had part of her brain removed. More specifically the area that activates when you move your body. Well, she was moving and talking with just some minor missteps, and theoretically it was not possible. She was paralyzed in the first 3 months after the operation. She was caught in a car accident if I remember correctly. We were trying out a new scanner for the brain, and we found out that an area of the brain that wasn't supposed to work and control the movement was doing just that. The occipital area, usually controls the vision, was now working as a motor control area. The brain is really amazing. There is a muscle, called palmaris longus, in the forearm missing in about 10% of the population. You can easily test if you have it by putting your pinky and thumb together, while holding your palm facing up, and flex the hand upwards. If one tendon is standing out more than the others, that's palmaris longus. You mostly breathe out of one nostril at a time, and the dominant nostril switches every hour or so. When we're in an unfamiliar environment we sleep with half our brain at a time, kinda like sharks, and that's why we wake up easier. The optimal human circadian rhythm is actually closer to 25 hours than 24 in experiments depriving people of sunlight and other triggers that maintain your circadian rhythm. Just a couple 100 million years till the planet slows down to match our sleep cycle. Your hands and feet alone account for more than half of all the bones in your body, 106/206. Cutting the corpus callosum connects 2 brain hemispheres can produce some freaky results. Such as your hand doing stuff that your conscious mind is not aware of, writing a sentence or scratching an itch without knowing, for instance. I saw a program back in the dark ages when I was a kid. It was all about the brain. One of the things they talked about was that procedure. They had a guy they were testing. One hand did better with creative things, the other did better with logic. At one point they were trying to get him to do something with the hand that didn't have an easier time with it. I think it was something like stacking blocks. He wasn't supposed to use the hand that could do it better, but as if the hand had a mind of its own, it kept interjection itself and at one point literally grabbed the hand having a problem and moved it out of the way in obvious frustration. I remember watching a video about this sort of experiment way back when I took intro psych as an elective. With one guy, they asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, and gave each hand a pen. One side wanted to be a doctor, or something similar, it's been years so I don't remember, while the other wanted to be a racecar driver. Some people were put in front of a screen with a divider in front of their face, so each eye was blind to whatever was going on the other side of the body. Then they did exercises with a pen in each hand. And then, for example, if the screen said to draw a toadstool, one half might draw an actual toadstool and the other might draw a toad in a stool. They found some really interesting quirks. Makes me wonder if those people might have conversations between the halves of their brain, communicating through writing or something, since they aren't physically linked to transmit info anymore. As far as I know, they still sever the corpus callosum in some cases of severe epilepsy, to help prevent a seizure from doing damage across both hemispheres. My son has hypoplasia of the corpus callosum, and even since he was a baby, he's 11 now, when he tries to grasp something or use his hands for anything, he will immobilize one arm to use the other. In therapy we worked on getting him to use both hands together, but while one hand might be reaching for a toy, the other hand would knock the toy off his table or throw it. He would get so frustrated and start yelling. He is nonverbal, and flailing both arms around. We have to be careful to keep an eye on him, because another thing that goes with this defect is he has a high tolerance for pain. So he might wedge one arm between his wheelchair armrest so hard that it's cutting off the circulation but not show any signs of discomfort. He has a medical bed with tall wooden slats around it, and he will stick one arm through a slot and get it stuck on purpose. Sometimes I think he would prefer to amputate arm and is actively attempting to kill the mischievous arm. Brains are weird. The war that's constantly happening inside of you. Everyone knows about your immune system, but the sheer complexity of it is amazing. Like, your body has neutrophils, which are like the generic white blood cell that constantly goes around your blood vessels seeking out foreign objects, but did you know there are cells called macrophages which are like way better neutrophils in the fact that neutrophils mostly swallow bacteria to kill them? Macrophages do this too, except they can swallow close to 100. You have stuff like dendritic cells whose main goal is to be an early warning system. They swallow an invader, then carry a piece of it back to T cells to activate them. Once they're activated, T cells swarm that specific invader and kill anything that has that antigen. I didn't even name close to all of the cells that are doing constant battle inside of you 24/7,365 days a year. So next time you have the flu or an infection, think of the little guys inside you who gladly fight the good fight. Yep, cells at work taught me a lot of things. A small percentage of people are super sleepers and are fully recharged after 2 to 4 hours of sleep each night. They get to burn the candle at both ends. Most of our body never gets more than 20 years old. Our cells divide, in a process called mitosis, and then die. With the exception of your nervous system, the oldest organ in your body is the lungs, in terms of age of your cells. Your skin never gets more than a few weeks old, your mouth never gets more than a few days old. Essentially, the reason we age is not because the cells are old, but they lose their ability to perform functions as effectively as they go through the, mostly genetically determined, aging process. Your cells are only designed to divide a set number of times, due to structures called telomeres. It's a little more complicated than this, but I'm not writing a textbook, nor am I qualified to do so. Vitality. You'd be surprised how much blood you can lose and fully recover reasonably quickly. We have an internal regulator that prevents us from using our full strength. Our muscles usually only work at about 60% max of what we are capable of. In extreme life and death situations, these regulators stop and we are able to use our full strength. This is how the parts where people tipped over cars and similar come from. These regulators are because at full strain we heavily damage our bodies. Essentially, you could lift something to the point where it is either lifted or your arm just breaks instead. I believe there has also been someone who ran so hard his leg broke. You're taller in the morning than the rest of the day, night. During the day the cartilage in our knees and other areas slowly compress, but when you go to sleep and rest the cartilage goes back to normal. On average we are about 1 centimeter taller the morning than in the evening. Bold of you to assume I get up in the morning. Thank you for watching. What did you think? Did any of it creep you out? Feel free to comment below what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Later.